perfection is very fluid. It does not mean the same thing to everybody and from every perspective.
Welcome back to the Faculty Factory podcast. I'm Kim Skorupski, your host, and I am looking at one of our frequent flyers. It's a little reunion episode with Dr. Rashmi Vyas. Rashmi, good morning.
Good morning, Kim. Pleasure to be here with you today.
Well, if you're new to the Faculty Factory podcast, you're definitely going to want to slide up to episode number 88 back in September of 2020. Where Dr. Vyas talked about you deserve a seat at the table. And before we get started, Rashmi is, well, first of all, Dr. Vyas, you're one of these amazing people who have lots of alphabet soup after your name. You're so impressive. And I remember that you're found at the Foundation for Advancement of International Medical Education and Research, FAIMER. And you are a senior associate there and are going to talk to us today about change, and change is here to stay. So we are really curious. I'm dying to know how you and your office and your life withstood, changed, pivoted, were resilient. How did this occur to you? How did all of 2020 happen for Dr. Rashmi Vyas and those you love and serve?
Thank you, Kim. It's very interesting. 2 years ago, when I did my first podcast interview with you on deserving a seat at the table, the pandemic had just started. At that time, I shared the strategies of willingness to change and investing in self to reinvent oneself. I had mentioned in passing that with the COVID-19 pandemic, we will be needing these skills as our organizations change to adapt to the post-pandemic world. Little did I know how prophetic those words would be. Here we are, 2 years later, the pandemic still out there, organizations changing to adapt to the new normal. And Kim, you and I doing another faculty podcast together.
Here, I know it is mind blowing when we think, oh, this will blow over 2 years ago. And here we are. 2 years later, and here we are. And you and I were just talking, Rashmi, before we started recording, how important it is to pause and reflect. And it sounds a little bit trite, and I guess I might have a little bit of an eye roll if I were listening right now going, well, of course I'm thinking all the time, I'm reflecting. But to really take a moment and take stock or take inventory of all the changes globally, macro level down to the micro level, and getting comfortable with that. And then with gratitude, realizing all you did, all you were, all you accomplished, all you served, and all you went through, and everybody are out there, the loss we've endured, the everything. But with doing this with gratitude and taking that moment to really reflect on it, I think I'm hoping, like you did with me this morning, shore up our confidence and make us realize, yeah, wow, that was a lot. And here I am, here we are. And so it's in a way, it's one of those it's exciting to me. So I can't wait for you to get into the juicy details today.
So, COVID-19 pandemic brought a major change worldwide. And what I would focus on, one of the changes that it brought about was in the area of online education programs. Mm-hmm. Now, this shift impacted the faculty development programs that I lead. I had to quickly pivot to changing our design and delivery to online format to be relevant and address the current needs of the faculty. Now, this was not easy because our program participants were busy health professionals from all around the world who became even busier on the front lines to manage COVID-19 patients.
Right.
They were also located in a wider geographic area spanning 5 continents with varying availability of resources and a 12-hour time difference. So no single time would work well for all. Now, as I worked with the FAIMER team to navigate through these changes, I learned the value of the 6 behaviors which are listed in Harvard Business Review in 2013 by Hewlett and Marshall, which they say unlocks innovations. One was ensuring that everyone is heard, making it safe to propose novel ideas, giving team members decision-making authority, sharing credit for success, giving actionable feedback, and implementing feedback from the team. One noticeable outcome is a greater acceptance of online education and enhanced skills in navigating through it. I believe this was partially due to our program's good acceptance because we did pivot in design, offered a way to complete a program they had already enrolled in, and eliminated the cost of attending. And of course, across the world, the health professions education had to catapult into the online world.
Right.
Overall, this was a plus because now we can offer quality programs to a wider reach. And teamwork was crucial to that success.
You are so right, Rashmi. I think we all of us, we were forced to. That's a classic example of necessity being the mother of invention, that there was no option. We all had classes that were scheduled in person. We had external speakers coming in. We had hospitality ordered. We had handouts prepared, and then boom. And there's no way we could make people come in, even if we spread the chairs out really far. Nobody knew what was happening. So we had to. We were forced. That was a push into a change. And as you said, it ended up being one of the wonderful benefits is that it was so much more efficient and easy for faculty members to participate in our programming because now we were a mouse click away rather than a car ride away or several blocks away that they could run to us. So that was the big win. I think I heard from all of our colleagues around North America that enrollments and attendance went way up. So that is a good feature of that going to online. So I totally agree with you. And I'm so curious to see how we play that forward and how these hybrid models and in-person models, how that's going to look in the future.
And it's beyond North America because our program is international. It caters to a global population. And this has been seen globally. It does come with its challenges, but that's definitely the plus point that now you are a mouse click away rather than a car or a flight away in our case.
Exactly. Rashmi, because you are the expert in education and medical education, can I pick your brain just a minute here? How do you handle the interaction component? Because, we all know that one of the key features of our programming and faculty development is the social networking, is the intermingling, is the socializing. It's the pods of people who hang out after the class is over, in the classroom, chit-chatting, or in the hallway, in the restroom as they're preparing to run down to the hospital. And I'm speaking, of course, from an extrovert standpoint. And I miss that. Yesterday, when I was giving a session on habits, and we send people off to those virtual breakout rooms, I literally was sitting there with my eyes really big and kind of sad. And my program coordinator said, "You look sad, Kim." I said, "I am sad because I'm used to hearing the noise and the conversations and feeling the energy in the room and hearing people laughing in their groups. And then a group will be low or quiet. And so I want to creep over there and so I miss all that human social interaction. Please help. Give me some advice, Rashmi. What do you do or what are you seeing? How do you mitigate that loss of the personal human connection online?
I don't believe we are able to, address that. Get that personal human connection in the online because it is online. However, trying to build a community, a professional network, which is our goal in an online forum, is a huge challenge. It is challenging because our program, we had this exactly what you're talking about, Kim. We had people coming in with immersion experience. You chit chat in the hallways, in the restrooms, have lunch together. So that's a huge challenge for us. How do we capture all that and still have a professional network in an online format? It has been challenging. And actually, my colleague and mentor, Dr. Paige Morahan. She has an interview coming up with you. She will be going much deeper into that. So I would recommend the listeners to listen to her podcast. But just to give a couple of examples, what we tried to do is we came up with specific activities to engage our community. For example, we launched something called an annual FAIMER Global Forum, which is a virtual 3 days event and brings the community together to celebrate our community and to discuss, the cutting edge and relevant topics in the health professions, education, and workforce development. And similarly, we are making use of technology. We are getting ready to launch a platform, FAIMER Connect, which we believe is at a much better level than the earlier platforms that we were using, and will engage our community. So we are thinking of now coming up with activities. How do you engage them? How do you keep them interested? So these are some of the things we are doing, making use of technology and learning how to use it to keep on building our strong professional network.
Oh, Rashmi, thank you so much. I feel better already because I know that as long as I know that experts are on it and are carving the path for me, I feel a sense of relief because, I can't wait to talk to Paige. She's wonderful as well. But I just have to put this out here before I forget it. I'm conflicted oftentimes with the chat feature in Zoom because sometimes when I'm on meetings, you see people get in the chat and they're chatting to each other, which is nice. But then the negative side, or they're sharing information and sharing links and resources and having questions, which is important. So they're engaged. But then I oftentimes wonder, are they paying attention to the speaker or the content, or are they too busy talking to each other? And so I'm oftentimes like, I want them to be connecting, but maybe not when the speaker's talking, because I want you to be focused on the content. It's almost like the old days of, children, the teacher is speaking. Do you have something you want to share with the entire class? Why are you two talking back there in the classroom? So that is something I wrestle with. And as you were just talking, Dr. Vyas, I was thinking, I'm not on social media. I don't do Facebook or something, but many times I've been at meetings where I'm thinking, oh, I'd love to touch. Rashmi just said something really interesting. Who is she? Where is she from? How can I get in touch with her? And maybe, and the chat has been disabled. So I can't chat to you personally. I end up chatting to everybody. Wouldn't it be nice if we had like a picture frame feature or some drop down menu?
The possibilities are limitless. We can be as creative as we would like to be. We can reach out to as many people as we want to. And while there are huge challenges in this move to online and trying to build a professional network online, since we are so used to those random check-ins face to face, but the possibilities are endless and technology has grown in leaps and bounds. And what I found in these past 2 years is the acceptance, the attitude change has also happened. People are more willing to accept and embrace technology. So that gives us another, the acceptance is slow, it's coming in, and people are developing better skills in navigating through these technologies. So the sky is the limit.
Okay, Rashmi, thank you. I feel better.
But I do remember you asking me to, reflect how it went in my office, personal life, professional life. So what I found, Kim, was that in these uncertain times, one thing that remains constant is change itself. So FAIMER, my organization, actually went through significant changes in this last 2 years. After almost 20 years, FAIMER has a new president who led us through strategic planning. This resulted in changes in the organization's vision, mission, strategies. And to better align to the new direction, there was a change in the organizational structure also. And I, like many others, experienced the constancy of change. I made conscious effort to practice reinventing myself through a willingness to change and investing in myself. This is probably part of the reason that I was selected to a new role as a senior associate at FAIMER, where I lead the FAIMER Global Programs. Now, FAIMER Global Programs integrate our partnerships to advance both healthcare education and now additionally workforce development. So I believe some of these strategies did work. So here I am in this new responsibility. But With the new role of course, comes a better pay and more responsibilities. And interestingly, two of the 12 habits that Hellgreen and Goldsmith challenge women to break in their book, How Women Rise, two of them are overvaluing expertise and avoiding the perfection trap.
Oh, hang on a second. Could you say that again? Overvaluing expertise.
Correct.
I don't know what that is.
Yes. Interesting. So I read up like you. I said, what does this mean? Overvaluing expertise. I thought, expertise could never be overvalued.
Right.
But what I realized was, however much I like to have expertise in every aspect of my work, I needed the time and space to network and build relationships.
Yes.
That's what they mean. But it's easier said than done, because by default, many of us are wired to focus on learning every detail and becoming expert in every task. And that was actually very great for the project in hand. But it did not give me the time and space I needed for the program overall. So I had to reinvent. I had to say, okay, I probably do not need the expertise in every small detail.
Right.
Somebody else can do that. And I free up that time to network, to build relationships, which is not only good for my career, but it is part of my job also.
As a leader.
That's what we do at FAIMER.
Right.
I also found that I was getting into the trap of trying to be perfect rather than efficient. One has to balance perfectionism, being perfect and being efficient. But it is a constant battle. My work is leading programs in partnerships and collaborations around the world. I realized the value of leveraging partnerships to develop programs and implement them in different parts of the world. For example, we plan to launch a new program in Africa to promote healthcare, which I have been asked to lead. So what I did was I leveraged partnerships that we already had in the continent because of other programs to collaborate in this new venture. So these are some of the things I'm trying to balance with how do you address these additional responsibilities in this era of constant changes and uncertainty.
Now, Rashmi, how did you ascertain your strengths and your opportunities for growth? And how did you find those blind spots about yourself? Like you just talked about this excellence at the expense of efficiency. How did someone bring this to your attention? Did you learn it indirectly, or did you purposely seek out this kind of deep dive about yourself as you were acquiring this new leadership role and as FAIMER reorg? How did you get to that?
I think it's a combination of multiple factors. It includes all the factors that you just listed. I have had great mentors throughout. They point things out to me. We have a good team. And I have, I constantly keep on participating in leadership building. I've done a fellowship. I, do all these different workshops. We teach leadership in our programs. So I have to keep updated to what's out there. And I read because, as I said in my last podcast, I have immigrated to the United States in 2014, and I started from bottom. So I have to keep on reinventing myself. So I think it's a combination of all the factors. Yeah. And since you asked me, what else also happened was that the major current challenge I found myself is I put my job before my career. So to give an example, I have enrolled in a PhD program and I became too busy to move it forward. And I very recently read the book, The Seat by Dr. Shirley Davis, where she talked about why she got a PhD when she did not necessarily need one. Now, that reminded me of all the reasons why I should try and finish my PhD. And so it's a combination of all this. I read things, I look at women who have reached a certain position. And then I actually greatly appreciate the push from my mentors, friends, and colleagues who remind me of the pitfall I was getting into. But I'm aware of it. I haven't solved it completely. However, now I'm more mindful of leveraging an activity for two goals. So one of them, could move my PhD forward. So coming back to your question, it's a combination of multiple factors, which helps me to keep on becoming aware of my strengths and my challenges and how to cope with it. Rashmi, sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not.
I really appreciate your honesty and being so forthright. It's a kind of bittersweet for me when I see leaders at your caliber being so honest and admitting that, hey, I'm growing, I'm learning, I make mistakes all the time. I need my tribe, my inner circle of people to remind me when I'm going in the grip, when I'm, kind of stressed out and acting out and reverting to my hidden shadowy side. And then the bitter part of that. So I appreciate the authenticity and the honesty. And then the bitter part of that is that I feel, gosh, do we ever get to a point where we just kind of like content and just be at that moment? Because I think there's also then this risk of, I'm reflecting on faculty members who come to me for coaching and leaders who want to be coached, that they never feel like they're enough, that it's constant. I need to constantly be better. And as you mentioned earlier, this being perfect, I'm not quite perfect yet. And then once I'm perfect, then what? And then I was like, well, then what? So I really find this whole self-discovery, exploration, and I've been doing a lot of that over the past 2 years, really, really important for those reasons that kind of remind people to do that, but also gently nudge people to say, well, and guess what? You're great right now the way you are. Doesn't mean there's an opportunity for improvement, but please don't feel like until you're perfect, you're going to matter. I mean, so that kind of is down, I wonder about that. And then the second thing is, Rashmi, what advice would you give to early career faculty members, mid-career any faculty members? Why am I putting a rank on it? It doesn't matter. Who, as you pointed out during COVID and this pandemic, they are so super busy, busier than ever before in their lives. And now they're listening to us on their drive home after a 12, 16-hour shift, and they got to go home and write that paper. And by the way, they do have babies and a husband sitting at home, and they got to get that grant application, and they're on this committee and that committee. And now we're saying, and now you have to read all these books and do this self-exploration, and you need to journal, and you need to meditate, you need to be mindful and stretch and exercise. I mean, how do we deal with that? The person going, give me a break. I have to do that now too, on top of everything else.
I hear you. I hear you. I'm still struggling with that. But coming back to your first one about perfectionism, I think that's very subjective. What is perfect, right? I think once we embrace the uncertainty of perfection, it makes it easier. Because I'm also like that. I want to be perfect in everything I do. But as the responsibilities grow, and as you just now said, in the pandemic, people have become even more busy, moving to online work from home for many. Somehow those boundaries have been blurred between office and work. So there are a lot of challenges. And I am slowly learning to embrace or to understand that perfection is very fluid. It does not mean the same thing to everybody and from every perspective. It's kind of it's a little subtle, but I'm trying to get that. I'm trying to let go of my definition of perfection. And the other thing I have is I continue to have the support of great mentors. I feel there is no age. I think everybody, irrespective of their age, stage in life, or where they are in their careers, need mentors. As you said, that inner circle. We need our support. And I think I believe I am a mentor and support to many others, just as I have my mentors. So I continue to have this great support as I navigate through the challenges that came with the organizational changes compounded by the pandemic. And you asked me what suggestions I have. As I said, I'm trying to redefine whatever I ever believed perfection meant. And my other key learnings have been value teamwork, reinvent myself, avoid being a perfectionist, and leverage partnerships. And over and above all, I'm learning to embrace change because change is here to stay.
Oh, Rashmi, it's so refreshing to me. Thank you so much for that reminder. And when you were just talking about perfection being fluid, that really kind of gave me pause. And I wrote that down. Perfection is fluid, meaning that it's not, back to the kind of the trite saying, it's not a destination. You're not going to reach it and go, yes. And even if you're like, yes, I got it. It's just for that moment in time. And then boom, now all of a sudden you're imperfect as you trip across the sidewalk. And it makes me think of my hairstylist who, I have a very, very special relationship with my hairstylist. But every time she's done trimming my hair, we do the color and the highlights and the whole ordeal. And at the end, when she's trimming and then fluffing and poofing and looking and inspecting, then I'll see her take a little handful of hair here or there, brings it up, twists it around her finger and takes the scissors and does something weird. And I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? She said, we have to be perfectly imperfect. And I was just like, don't you dare mess with that. I just watched you make straight cuts with straight edges. And now you're messing with it, sporadically grabbing little wads of hair and you're fucking it. Perfectly imperfect. And it drives me nuts until I finally wrap my perfectly imperfect head of hair around that concept that I would leave the salon. I'm like, is that a refrigerator magnet? I am perfectly imperfect. If not, it should be, because it's a good reminder we are all perfectly imperfect. Right?
Exactly. And change is here to stay.
We are not you can't avoid it. Change is, it kind of reminds me of the World Health Organization definition of health is, they say, it's more than just the absence of illness. It's complete, total emotional, social, spiritual, physical wellness. It's not just not being sick. And change, absence of change is almost like Hans Selye taught us about stress. Absence of stress is death. Absence of change is death. If things aren't changing anymore, it's because you're not here anymore and you are ceasing to exist in this life form on this planet. So it's always going to be there. You're right. So get comfortable with being imperfect and embracing the change and looking to the change and saying, yeah, bring it. Bring on the change. I'm ready. So Dr. Rashmi Vyas, it's been so fun learning from you. Thank you so much for sharing these important pointers and this book I've never heard of, The Seat. I'm going to check that out. How Women Rise. That's the name of that. That's a classic one we use in our women's leadership programs. You are so right. Change is here to stay. Folks, you've been learning and hopefully appreciating Dr. Rashmi Vyas, as have I, from FAIMER, the Foundation for Advancement of International Medical Education and Research. Rashmi, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kim. The pleasure is all mine.
See you next time on the Faculty Factory Podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to Faculty Factory Podcast. The mission of the Faculty Factory is to build and support a community of leaders in faculty development who share tools, resources, wisdom, and encouragement in service to our faculty members, schools, and institutions. We encourage you to go to facultyfactory.org to find out more. Get in touch with me, ask me any questions. Maybe you want to be interviewed on the podcast. Thanks for tuning in to Faculty Factory Podcast. We'll see you next time. The Faculty Factory podcast and website is sponsored by the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine Office of Faculty. For more information, visit facultyfactory.org.